call the meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust for Thursday, January 12th to order. We are not hybrid tonight, so we don't need to roll call. We do have a quorum. With us tonight is our attorney Kathleen. She's going to go review a couple of things. Pass that down to Matt. The first thing that we need to cover is the GSX grant agreement, just for a quick updated history on it. Beacon monopolized a good chunk of time as that deal, as all you were aware the last time we met. They backed out of the situation. Come to find out that they weren't really prepared to move on it for another couple of years anyways. So we kind of recircled the wagons. We had their principal in at our last meeting to discuss, what they were going to look at. Since then, we've modified the grant agreement to try to encompass as many securities as we can on our behalf, and then kind of struggled through how we would pay, how would we, how the interaction would work. I think what they presented there is pretty much in line with what the market's going to bear for what they're going to do on the site, regardless of whether we get affordability or not. I think we can, once we get this solidified and get to a point where the trust is comfortable working with them, we can probably explore doing another base project for the barn, which they seemed pretty agreeable to. So anyways, you have a copy of the agreement. I'm going to hand it over to Kathleen. And then she can go over the one primary concern that we've had that I think we've remedied to the point where we're going to be able to have something that works. I have the red line version in front of me, which is basically section 12. The drafts you have.
So you will be remembering that we've been working on this grant agreement for a while. And obviously we had, the Beacon participation in that, that sort of held it all up. It came back to life now because these folks came back and said, let's get this all finished up. And we had done a draft many months ago. And in the latest iteration, what we tried to do was make it a lot easier for everyone. They had this whole complicated escrow situation where, we were going to set up a special escrow account and they were going to do submissions every 2 weeks and, all that sort of stuff. And I said, that's really not going to work. You're going to be having to go to the town and we're going to have a vote here and to authorize the trust to get money out of its account with the treasurer. And all that's not going to happen in, 48 hours, which is kind of what they were looking for. So we really worked on trying to make that a little bit better because, as I said, they wanted to have this sort of separate escrow account, which, was not going to be happening. So we've streamlined the sort of obligations for the payments. And then where we were really concerned was trying to protect, in many cases, what we try to do with these affordable housing grants is to get a note and a mortgage, or a mortgage anyway, to sort of secure the obligations under the grant agreement. That's getting harder and harder to do when people are trying to do financing. To have us there, we either have to subordinate our mortgage to the new financing. It just causes a lot of trouble. So we had lots of back and forth with counsel for GSX about asking for a mortgage. And we kept pushing at it. Bruce kept pushing at it. And in the end, what they came back with was a paragraph 12, which is the newest language, which allows for, let me go to it specifically, that if they default under this, that the trust would have the right to require GSX to give us all of their engineering, construction drawings, all the studies, all the, Title V septic, all that kind of things that they had gotten with the grant money, and that we would have all of that information and be able to bundle it to a new developer if somebody came along when they backed out. So the paragraph 12 is really the only change since we've last had a conversation about these documents.
The other thing that we had looked at is we should have some assignment of the property as well.
Well, they don't own it yet.
No, I know.
Yeah, I mean, we can't do anything with drawings until we,
Yeah, so they have until
The
June
property.
to, with the select board, unless the select board grants them some type of extension, which I don't know, they may or may
Yeah.
not do, I'm not sure. But, they're looking to move on this and start the permitting process immediately. But any which way they look at it, they're gonna have to ask for an extension if they want the permit first. There's no way they're getting through this permit in the next 5 months. Which I guess complicates things, but they wanted an agreement with us to make sure we were on board with the affordability components that they had put into it, and make sure that we were in line, with what they wanted to build and if we wanted to participate. So this is basically as definitive as we're gonna get as far as protecting our interests and actually having a legal document that binds the two parties together. After that, you know, it's whether or not we wanna participate in the permit process, we wanna be cheerleaders, we're going to be part of the development process, cause we're paying for half of it. But we don't really have the expertise to handle any of the, the architectural renderings and things of that nature.
Oh, no, and I wouldn't recommend that, basically. You don't ever really want to have a situation where it then starts to look like a town project because of our participation in the actual construction, because then public bidding comes in, all kinds of other issues
Yeah.
arise. So you would want to say that you were supportive. You can send a letter to the ZBA saying that you're supportive of it. And certainly looking at the affordability
You
components of
don't
it.
want us participating in any of the dialogue for,
I would be, reluctant to have that happen.
okay?
like, holding charrettes for town to come in, community charrettes to just facilitate with them.
You could do that, if that's gonna be something that, they're gonna be doing at this stage in the
I was
game.
thinking more cheerleading side of it
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah,
This is gonna go through the planning board because it's an overlay district, which is a little bit easier than the ZBA in this community anyways. But I was always under the impression that if, the trust was behind this particular project, that, we would put 6 to 10 people in the audience. So it wasn't as negative.
yeah,
as, Matt, you can attest to it, you put 6 or 7 people in the room that are for it, it kinda humbles the crowd a little bit, as opposed to having 30 in the
Yeah.
audience that just hate you.
no, and I also, obviously for them, as they, I know from my work with other trusts and other projects like this, is that when they go out for financing and going to grant programs from the state and tax credits and all that sort of stuff, the fact that the Affordable Housing Trust in the town has participated in the project gives them a big bonus in terms of their application for other financing. Because that's what the state and the feds want to see, is that the community has pledged actual cash towards a project. It's a real bonus.
My one degree of hesitation with this is, when we commit to the project and we put our money up, are we gonna get something built?
Yeah, I just struck, so we're all they're gonna give us if they default is the drawings.
No, we should have the property as well. And that was part of the discussion with Gamma.
'Cause you can't do anything, I've seen drawings sit for 50 years.
Yeah, we're supposed to have access to the property as well. When they go to their second round of financing, I know that's when the mortgage is gonna be a problem. But if they have financing in the second round, which, that means they have a permit in place, that means they're gonna go out to build. I'm not nearly as concerned about subordinating or having language like this. But if it's in the next year and they decided to pull out, we should get the property.
That's if they own it.
Under what mechanism do we get the property?
Well, that's what I had made clear to them, but that's not here.
No, it
This is just the
isn't.
plans.
Which are kinda useless if you don't have,
Well, the plans
Access to
in
the
the,
site.
yeah, exactly.
like, we basically lose our money unless we sell those back to another developer, which is,
Where they're really important to me is that with the land secure, the land, the permits, and the architectural renderings and the engineering, it covers most of what we're gonna commit to this as far as capital is concerned. Because it's 1.8 million, but we've already made inroads with the water district, sewer district, the select board, which we're gonna have to go back and do again, but we're gonna get most of this recouped in the public utilities, that's in the back of this, the language is in the back of this. So our real cash commitment over the next couple of years is gonna be about 900K. So the asking price for the
For
land is what, 680 or something like that, or what?
for soft costs like design.
Yeah. So if we get the plans, the engineering, and all the renderings, it will be close to, 1-to-1 on collateral. Which was always the intent, is just like a year ago that we started this, and now we're kind of getting back to it.
I'm just super hesitant because we have drawings sit for a year and then procurement issues, like things are discontinued, you gotta redesign things, you gotta pay for bulletins, I just don't.
Yeah, without the land, it's nothing.
So what, can someone walk me through what happens if this bill goes belly up? So right now, we have a signed purchase and sales. It's good till effectively June.
Yep.
Is that right?
June 30th, I believe it expires.
Could be extended, but right now the town owns the property.
Yep.
We sign this agreement, it says if essentially the project doesn't go forward, we get the collateral from the project. At that point, though, hasn't the PNS gone through?
I would imagine so, yeah.
So at that point, then, GSX owns the property, right?
Yeah, they're only, the soft money that's going into the initial costs here is gonna be your, everything you need to get the special permit. That's the conditions in your PNS that allows them to go and do their diligence, that they wanna get the permit first. And then, sign off on it. Unfortunately, they don't have enough time to do that before it expires.
Yeah, but we're not also giving them all the money at once,
Yeah,
you know.
I'm just trying to play out the scenario
Yeah.
since, but I share Brittany's
You're gonna
concern.
throw away money.
Is there a situation where the town won't get the property back and the drawings? Because I agree with you, if we get the property and the drawings, and we have sort of a complete thing to bring to another developer, even if the drawings aren't going to be used by another developer, the property itself recoups us a good amount of what
Yes.
so the risk is relatively low if we retain the property, but once that PNS has gone through, that property becomes somebody else's. So what's the mechanism that we would get if the project went belly up at some point later in the process?
And I know I've spoken with John and Michelle.
Like, this is a new one for me. I mean, we
20
talked
times.
about the mortgage, I don't have any notes about the fact that we were looking for like some, a deed for the property as well.
What's it assessed at right now?
An actual
nothing.
commercial appraisal has been done. It'd be very difficult to get one done too. It has got an existing structure on it.
Yeah,
And,
because they haven't done the survey yet, because they haven't demolished anything yet.
yeah, well, they've done the wetlands delineation. They've done a fair amount of actual site survey work.
Okay.
So they're at.
I mean, that stuff
they're
is valuable,
comfortable
we
with
can
it.
reuse that stuff, but.
Yeah, but I 100% agree. The mortgage just tied everything into us because we were gonna get the lands if we had it mortgaged anyways. They should be agreeable to assigning the property to us if they abandon it.
Yeah, but that's not in the agreement.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go back and
this is
talk
what
to
they
them.
thought they wanted to get signed today.
I don't feel
They're not getting it
comfortable with
signed
that.
today, so.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, that's what
I
the
know.
messages all were. Okay,
What is the completion date referenced in section 12? Is that the date of the PNS signature, or what is that?
the completion date of the project, I think it's
I
defined.
don't know if they know
Let's
that
see.
yet.
Because the way I read it is, it says,
It's within, so we normally put in something in grant agreements, if you go to first page, number 2, the term of the agreement is 3 years. And so, the commencement date is when we sign it, and the completion date is when the project is finished.
yeah,
And that would be when there's, certificates of occupancy and, all that sort of thing are issued for that project. That's the
If they
completion.
decide to bail on it, they can't get financing, or, something falls apart in the market, and there's challenges at that 3-year time is when we pull the plug. I assume if they have a shovel in the ground and they're actually under construction, which very well may be the case with that, like 2 years out from now, that might be the point at which they, you know, say, well, we need an extension, we're moving, and of course, I assume we'd be on board with that.
Yeah, so the way I read 12 is they have 3 years to get financing, which is, the 3 years is the term of this grant agreement. If they do, we don't have the default remedy at that point, but the trade-off there is if they have secured financing, then, you know, you have to make the assumption that the project is moving forward. If for some reason they have, you know, gone through permitting and we've given a portion of the money, but they do not obtain financing for between now and 3 years from now, that is when we could exercise our default remedy. Is that correct? That's correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess the question for me is, what's the likelihood of this not happening after them getting financing approved by a bank? So they're gonna get a 20-something million dollar loan, or whatever it is for this, right? So they get that. That means they're on the hook to whatever lender they choose. You know, what's the likelihood the project doesn't happen after that?
It'd have to be some type of market function that you're not really gonna
Yeah.
be able to foresee anyways.
But the bank is gonna foreclose,
Yeah. The bank would.
and we would have difficulty peeling it back from a bank.
Yeah. Yep.
Do we
So,
wanna shorten?
If the PNS goes through, though, they're gonna pay the town, right?
Yep. Yeah, they'll have the land as security. I overlooked what we were talking about in here, but that is something in the discussion, and he said it when he was with us. So, we just need to add the language to include the land.
I-
When they encumber
I
it,
think we gotta go to them and address I'm uncomfortable with all the what-ifs, because I can't reasonably anticipate, in order to commit almost $1 million of trust money, all the different scenarios. I think we could organize a meeting relatively quickly to come back together and sign this, but
I guess
So-
what happens with,
what we've been talking about all along, since the very, very beginning, is the property comes back to the trust if.
Yeah.
I
But does it
think-
get tied up in the bank then, though, if they?
when they move to their secondary financing, when they actually go and put this project out to whatever private
Yep.
capital or a bank, they're gonna encumber and lien the property as part of that.
And then we lose our leverage at that point.
We were gonna lose it anyways, but yes,
But will we get
technically,
the
it would
money
be
back
much
that we put
harder.
in before that?
With the sense to what money?
I guess are they paying they're gonna pay the town for the land, and then I don't see how this is beneficial for us. I guess I see, I don't know.
I do if it
Some
goes
risk.
forward.
Well, yeah, if it actually gets to the point where they're in construction and they're out there getting that financing, once
Yep.
they get that financing, it's a safe assumption that they're going to build.
Okay,
Can I ask a question? So, can somebody explain again what happened with this not going forward and then going forward again? That I'm still unclear about.
Beacon came in and proposed a partnership with GSX. They were proposing a very, very different style of a building.
Okay.
So what you saw was much more in line with like what Eastland had proposed. So it kind of had HUD and DHCD all over it, the ratios in there. What they were planning to do was wait till 2024, that January, to see what type of financing was out there. And GSX was not willing to wait that long as part of the agreement, so they couldn't come together. And I don't know the inside baseball because I wasn't party to whatever their discussions were, but basically Beacon had the ball for like 6 or 7 months and worked the project like it was theirs, and then they couldn't come up with the money and
yeah, I mean, they
And so
did
they
a full
built.
schematic design.
yeah. Yeah, I think they were on board with what was going on. I think what happened was they were going in a different direction on what the financing was gonna be, and they weren't willing to give GSX the money that they wanted for the project.
I have a question about the deed, you know, like that, with the town or wherever it is. Is the deed on the property going to have what is basically spelled out in section 3?
No, a deed would not have that language in it.
So
The
the deed
town,
is-
town is gonna deed the property to GSX,
Yep.
describing it as a plot of land.
You mean like a deed restriction?
They're not, the town is not gonna put, I don't think, a deed restriction in it.
Don't they have to, at least for the minimum?
No,
We have a 10% minimum.
That's in the zoning.
That's just
that's a
zoning.
zoning.
Yeah, it's just for
That's
the
the
permit
permit.
application.
All right. Yeah, I guess,
They're getting the property as is.
yeah. My issue then is not so much with the project going belly up, because as we've discussed, like, I think I'm confident that if they get the financing, they're gonna move forward with the project. They're trying to make a profit. Why would they not move forward? Maybe there's some black swan event that changes that, but I don't think we should be dealing in hypotheticals there. But to me, like, what if they get, a percentage of the way through the build and then they sell it? We have no remedy to get those 30 rental units from that point,
They're still
correct?
bound by the permit.
Yeah.
Even a purchaser is gonna be bound by that permit, because the permit gets recorded at the registry of
Okay,
deeds.
so the permit is going to say that they're
Yes.
doing 30?
Yep.
Okay, I mean, I don't have the concerns that some of
Yeah.
the other
So-
trust members have then.
So the permit won't be for the 10% minimum from the zoning. The permit will be from the 30%, or the 30 units that we're asking for.
It's
in
gonna
this.
be 25%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's what they're going before the planning
They're
board.
applying with
And
that.
that will be a condition in the permit.
Okay, so if they flipped it, whoever bought it would also have to do that if they wanted to build.
Runs with the land.
Yeah.
And that will be recorded.
And so, in my head, like, let's say something happens and they've already got their financing and they can't move forward with the project.
You can always amend the permit.
You can modify the permit.
Yeah.
You'd have to come back
Yeah, I
and
mean,
have a
that-
public hearing. and
that'd be
all
on
that.
Major modification.
Yeah, that'd be on the
to-
planning board, and I can't really see why they would go down on the units,
What's the
but
timeline of them getting financing versus us giving them money for drawings? Like, what does their schedule look like for drawings
they're-
versus like when their funding
They're
comes?
putting in their own money, so they're going 50-50. For every dollar we put in, they're putting a dollar. And then after that, when they get the permits in place, they're gonna move up past the first round and all the soft costs, and then they'll
Okay.
go out and,
So once they get their bid docs out and they get a price from contractors, then they're gonna go out for money.
yep. Yep. For a project of this size, I'm guessing they're gonna do it like every other project of this size. Their second, money,
But before they get financing, we've already basically put in
yeah,
half the design cost.
we're partnering with them, yep.
So I just, so they won't get, we won't know if they're gonna get the funding until after we put in a good amount of
but
money.
if they don't get the funding, then we can take the
We
property.
get the property.
If
But
we
where
put
does it
that
say
in
that?
here, it's not in here right now.
Yeah, no, it's
No,
gotta
it-
go in there.
If that goes in there, I'm
That
I'm
was our
cool with it.
understanding
Yeah.
from the get-go.
I'm pretty sure it's
so
in there.
I just,
No, it isn't.
no, it's definitely not in there.
I promise you it's not.
This is something we've discussed like 100 times.
All of its rights.
The phase at
and
which we're putting in soft money and they have no encumbrances on, if they pack ship and they go, we get the property.
Yep.
It's the whole reason why I was shooting for the 900K mark, is because it was getting close to 1-to-1 on loan to value.
And we think with the survey documents that we would get in the land, it would be around that.
You're gonna spend $150,000-$200,000 on engineering. And, well, you know.
Probably more than that,
Yeah.
honestly.
Well, with the architectural renderings and things of that nature, you know, you
Yeah.
guys bid out pretty high too.
I just did
So-
a 13,000 square foot interior
What was
fit
that?
out, and it was 300,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers get to that point.
I think your architectural fee is going to be $1 million plus with engineering and everything included.
GSX is an architectural outfit, so most of the stuff they're doing in-house.
So they're going to give us that discount? Like,
I doubt it. No.
yeah.
Well, they have to justify the expense. And so
Yeah.
they,
So they're going to include their overhead and everything,
It's-
their
it's-
hourly rates.
And they're also gonna give us 200K back at the end if it's profitable.
Okay. Okay, as long as we get the land piece in there, I mean.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I oversaw, yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
I
Dan?
thought you just said that the land is in here, but she's saying no.
No. This is the iteration that came today. Originally, this was designed around a mortgage, which we could actually record on the property. So if they defaulted, we could go through that normal process. This pulls it out and adds all the other stuff, the pieces that I thought had value, except that it didn't include the land.
Yeah, so I don't support that then.
No, it's gotta go in there.
So, I just have a question with, on 12 where it says, the trust shall have the right to require GSX to assign all of its rights and interests in the project. I'm just curious what rights and interests refers to here.
That probably was her shot at the land. I mean, it's there, but it's too ambiguous,
Yeah,
it
right.
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I think it would
Okay.
be.
I was wondering if it was some like
And an
legal
assignment
term.
wouldn't be a deed. You know, I mean, assigning my rights and interests in the project, and the project's defined in the agreement. You know, yeah, I mean, if the project is defined as the, you know, the actual construction. And so I don't think that really works,
No.
as saying that it's gonna give you the land. I mean, that'd be great, but I don't think so.
We just need it spelled out, we get the land back.
Yeah,
If there's another section that defines land on its own, and we have to have some terminology in there, so they don't get in trouble when they go to finance. But
yeah, I mean, if, for example, the town had said, okay, we're gonna put a right of reverter in the deed, you know, saying that if you don't do anything, the property comes back to us, I don't think they'd be able to get financing. So, this is where to put it.
And from my perspective, if they get to the point where they're getting financing, and it comes down to that level of diligence, and they're gonna get the financing, I'm comfortable that the project's gonna move forward, and it's a good place to put our money. If we release the land, like that encumbrance on the land, when we get to that point, which I don't think we should have a problem spelling out. But if it's in the next year, and they flounder, or they decide they wanna move on to something else, they can't just sell the land when we put in a bunch of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they giving us their drawings stamped? Affidavits, like, we can't use their drawings and get a certificate of occupancy if they're not gonna continue to be the architect on the project.
It falls back to the engineering outfit too. I think we're talking about the interim between when you have the special permit in place, because the special permit, as far as I'm concerned, is the only thing that really has value.
Yeah,
I just threw everything in there that I thought may have value, but the permit's the only thing of value.
it'll save you some money on it.
Because if we
Yeah.
go to another outfit and
It'll
we
save
go
you some
from
money.
WDA to
Yeah.
somebody else, we're gonna get the CAD files,
Yep,
and they're gonna say, well, we gotta review everything anyways, so we're gonna
Exactly.
save like $12.95.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
the thought process behind it was everything that we can get our hands on before they go off and start building, we want it back if they're gonna abandon it.
When are they buying the property?
June is their cutoff. There's no way
And
they're
are they
making
not
June.
doing any design until then? Like they've done
No, they wanna
schematic?
be in the special permit process.
That's where I'm like, so they're gonna do all their drawings before they buy the land, and I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I don't think they're gonna buy the land without a special permit.
Right.
Why would they?
Yeah, I
It's
just,
on spec, but it's still
it's a
600
little bit of a
grand.
risk for us.
The whole thing's a lot of risk for us. I get that completely. I don't think we're gonna put in a lot of money before we get to that stage, though.
Okay,
So if we're a couple $100,000 deep into the permit process,
but it's a
and they
50-50
said
split?
no. Yeah,
Permit docs? That's
we're gonna spend $250,000 on, they're gonna spend
more than
$250,000.
that.
Yeah, we're gonna be $500,000 deep before they get their, what they need for our
Oh,
planning
yeah.
board. I mean, that's why soft money is so expensive, because this is the risky part.
Oh, yeah, I know.
But, yeah, well, see,
There's a liability to it.
yeah. And it very well could be that we put a lot of money into this, very similar to the discussion we're gonna have on 25 Worcester Street, and we're gonna get to the ZBA, they're not gonna grant us our waivers. And we're gonna spin our wheels, spend $100,000, working on it, and we're just done. And that 100K vaporizes. That could happen here, but this is the nature of development. I don't know how else to approach it. Also, the fact we gotta get the land encumbered in here.
Yeah, I mean, and lots of times you're not even, I mean, the way the projects are going, you're not gonna get the land either. I mean, we do these kinds of affordable housing projects all the time, and our financing, we've got a grant agreement, we've got a mortgage, but it's number 5 in a chain of mortgages. So, you know, there's no
Not even
chance
worth
you're
the money
getting
to
anything
chase.
of that back, as you all know. But,
Just then briefly, let's talk just about the project. I know there's concerns about, you know, whether it gets off the ground and whether it gets going and stuff like that. But as far as value for what we're putting in and what we're getting, is everybody still comfortable if everything goes the way it's supposed to and we get our 30 units out of it?
Yeah, I just don't see that being a sure deal.
I can 100% agree that
such
it's
thing as
not
sure deal.
gonna be a sure deal. I can
I just
guarantee you that
not-
we've been sitting on this money for a decade
Yeah.
and have done nothing with it.
I mean, it's how much are we willing to gamble? That's
900K.
a lot.
Yep. Yep.
you know, I think unfortunately, that's the story with affordable housing. I mean, you know,
If we put it back, the risk is that we don't spend it for another decade and we missed our shot to actually get something developed before a downturn hits.
I mean, if it's 200,000 or 250 before they get the land, fine. But if it's 900K of our money before they get the land, no deal. I mean, that's just.
I don't know how I discounted in there without seeing the proper timeline
Yeah.
for when they want to get an extension. I imagine the select board's gonna want some type of review from us to see where it's at.
well, you know, we have these exhibits to these, this project agreement. Exhibit A is the description, we've got that, but the budget, I mean, we don't have the attachments for
Well, they
this.
sent us all the pro formas and everything in a previous packet.
And the draw requests, so there should be schedule, we would know.
Yeah, they sent us a schedule too. Everybody should have it. Should be updated in the
Yeah,
packet
but
as
anyway,
well.
but that would go to address your situation about how much is going before the closing happens.
Just-
Is it should be on that schedule.
Yeah.
Everything was provided in that meeting, so it should be in your packet from when John Grant came to talk to us. There was a schedule of events, a timeline. It was overly optimistic, and then there was a pro forma and a breakdown of the findings from that.
I don't wholeheartedly trust architects' schedules because
Yeah,
I
no,
make them
you can't.
myself.
We have a brand-new planner who's gonna be taking over this, you know, $25 million project.
Yeah.
She just got here in December. My guess is we won't have anything before the planning board until May.
Yep.
And I'm uncomfortable with the brand-new planner and the planning board looking at this. It's an overlay district. They haven't actually used this language outside of a 40R ever. So
Do we have like some sort of consultant they can consult?
that's,
Somebody that's retired that used to be a planner that could do once a week? That's what Cambridge does.
all right, so it took me a year before we got Amber.
Okay. Just
So,
saying.
Yeah, no, I
They're-
get it
they're out
completely.
there.
I did revisit when I spoke with the town planner that, you know, I'm sure the trust would be on board with providing, monies for technical assistance,
Yeah.
especially for a project like this, is when it's gonna take some. But she's still she's one planner
out of
in an
school.
office with no other, and people in the office with planning experience, so she's on her own.
Is she just out of school or is she had experience?
I think she's got 5 years' experience.
She worked in the private
Not bad.
sector too.
Isn't it?
Yeah, she seemed
Yeah.
delightful and very intelligent,
Yeah.
so.
It's not always experience time. It's
Our interim planner is also sticking around a few hours.
Perfect.
oh okay.
I don't think we're gonna keep them until May, though.
No, probably not, but
So as we talk about the commitment from the trust, though, it's 1.8. We
Right.
wouldn't get 900 back if this project didn't go forward. Right, we wouldn't get that full.
Our full commitment, no, if we, you know, we're,
So in
a
terms
lot
of,
of our,
in terms of what we're risking, it's more than 900K.
right,
Yeah.
I just want to be clear about that.
yeah, but there's benchmark points where you'll understand where they're
Risk
going with it.
decreases
Yeah.
over time.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then all of our return, which you're not supposed to call it that, but all of our return on that 1.8 comes at pretty much at the tail end of the project.
Right.
So right about occupancy permit, you know, we're gonna save some money on the permit stuff. That's up front. So local permitting, we're gonna get a big waiver there. So, you know, the 900K up front that you're worried about, and you're gonna see 150K of that back.
They're gonna give it back to us?
So the way it's drafted is we don't pay it, but it counts against our 1.8 million. So when they go apply for the permit, and we get half of that discounted from the 1.8, which was the cash commitment.
Okay.
So if it's 900K to get us to the point where they're going to build out and get to the point, we see some of that come back. But a lot of it's at the ends. So when they pay the water district and the sewer district for their turnouts, we recoup a lot of that out of the 1.8.
Cause they see it as like town money.
No, actually, it's just, it's basically, it's an offset to our actual, we're using it as cash in the 1.8.
Okay, got it.
So they don't see it at all, we just don't give them as much money, and we get it waived on our side.
I'm sending a message to their council now.
Okay. I know you guys just got that, we just got this, you know, over the last couple days, so it's a lot to digest.
So we can't do anything with it today?
No, not
Got
without
it
the land in
yesterday,
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll follow up, and if we have to have another meeting next week or the week following, we can do that. It could be just for this as well, but the rest of the grant agreement, I know it's a lot of just legal information. Does anybody have any problems with it? Exhibits, things like that nature, anything that you want to have added to it, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, it's basically, I said, what we had done over the past several months was try to make it easier for the town to process the request, because they had set it up in a pretty complicated fashion.
So in your world, having done a lot of these, is this far outside what you've seen?
The getting the land back that's, but then most of the time, I'm dealing with a project where the town didn't know the land to begin with.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
You know, so, you know, that we're providing, you know, financing to some organization, some developer, something like that.
So despite the what-ifs and the scenarios that are tough to wrap our heads around at this point, this project gets to completion, is it a good spend?
Yeah, we had something very similar to this in the town of Lincoln, where it was $1.2 million on a rental project. But they were, you know, they were convinced by the fact that once this project went through, they wouldn't have a 40B application for another 10 years. And they felt that they have never had one, they've always had over 10%. And they've done what they can to maintain that. And so it was really, but it was the same kind of discussion that we've just had here about what's our recourse. It was, you know, developer with not deep pockets, and you're gonna get like a guarantee against the guy's house and his truck. I mean, I don't know how that's gonna work, you know. And so, but it was the discussion was still the same. But it was really, when you think about a trust trying to build housing itself, you know, your obligation to provide, you know, to do affordable housing is next to impossible. And so you're taking these risks because there's a private developer who's gonna do it.
Yeah.
Cheaper, faster, get it out there, and get the things that you really wanna provide in your community. And so, you know, we roll the dice. And now there's a rental project on the corner of, you know, Route 2 that the town spent 1.2 for. But they wouldn't have been able to build anything
Right.
Yeah,
for 1.2.
by themselves. And I mean, just kind of helping people think about this, like, even if we own this property, or in the future we own properties, if we're going to do a grant, there's still the same risk. You know, like where you're actually giving cash to the developer, and that's, you know, typically how this works. It's just this scenario is the town owns the land, but it wouldn't be any different from the grant and the risk and the timeline.
We're gonna
Unless,
move, right from this to 25 Worcester Street, we're gonna give the land in the grant agreement.
yeah,
Because there's gonna be no way to claw that land back.
yeah,
It's either instrumental to it, we're probably gonna throw in a bunch of cash
yeah.
too. that we're gonna ask our friends at the CPC for.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, when we're talking about, subsidizing costs of a private developer, it's the same risk on any project. This is just a big one.
Yeah.
It's not 2 houses or 2 units.
Yeah.
I don't know, I still
Yeah.
like the project.
I
Pound
do
for
too.
pound, I don't think we're
I'm-
gonna get anything close to this.
No, it's $100,000 a unit. You
Yeah.
can't get that. So we're trading risk for reward.
Okay, so we'll work out the land piece of this component of it, try to get language drafted for it, and then we'll revisit this again. While we have Kathleen here, High Point Settlements, I don't know if anybody's aware. High Point is down off of Adams Road. It was a 40B comprehensive permit that got to the point where basically the developer has 3 lots left, a couple of issues with the development process, and didn't build out to the extent that the comprehensive permit had dictated the amount of affordability. So there's been a negotiation between the ZBA and them on how to, remediate that. So what they have come up with, and granted, I came late into the game, we weren't invited to the table to take part in these discussions. So what they have basically come down to is they're gonna grab the bond that was on the development, which I believe is like 400K. They're gonna use, I believe, like 300K of it to fix the drainage issues and make it so the town can accept the roadways. And then 100K is gonna come to us along with 2 of the 3 parcels. So in your packet, you should see those. 2 of the parcels are junk, but one of those is gonna be taken by the town for drainage. And then there's 1 parcel that is relatively decent, but I think we're gonna end up taking both parcels. The way it was explained to me is this is no strings attached. Kathleen's gonna tell you a couple strings that came up along the way that we're gonna have to take a look at, but it's basically the trust decision of whether or not we wanna take these properties and the 100K. There should be no obligation for us to actually go and develop these particular properties. I do have some ideas for them that I can talk about, but as long as the 100K is coming with it,
What are we giving them for that?
nothing. Well, we're taking 2 properties and putting them in our portfolio, and as Kathleen's gonna mention, some of them may come with a headache. And they also have,
It's like neighbors.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Well, we forfeited 2 units of affordable housing.
Yeah,
Oh,
basically.
They got to the end with the last 3 lots,
yeah.
and they just are never gonna build those. And 2 of those were affordable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they
Just
can't.
trying to make face,
Like,
make up for it.
No, they're not, because if they were, they would give us the full value of those lots that they
Unit,
did not
yeah.
develop, and that should be coming to the trust.
Yeah.
What happened was they decided to go this route, so they
Ran
went
out of
this
money,
route.
whatever.
Uh,
yeah.
But
what do you mean they decided to go this route? Who decided?
the ZBA
ZBA.
holds the comprehensive permit. The comprehensive permit has to be adjusted, it can only be adjusted by the ZBA. They have to fulfill the obligations of the permit for it to be accepted by the town as a public roadway. So in this process, it all kind of fell down, and they've been working on it for a long time. There's also another party that lives at where the number 76 is, that I guess has had some drainage issues that needed to be remediated as well. The developer has no appetite to do any of this. There's a capital bonds, which basically happens in most of the projects like this. And that money's gonna be used to restore it.
But assuming that homeowner agrees.
Yeah, I don't know where that is. I do know that 74, which should be vacant, it has a proposed building on it, I believe. That's the only real valuable lot,
Which one?
74, if you look at it up there.
What are the non-valuable ones?
The one is 52, and then the other one is actually not up there.
Because of the water table, or
No, it's just the basically the topography of the lot.
It's too much.
52 is okay, but they're gonna use it for drainage is the only way for them to put
Too much
that water.
slope to it.
No, it's
Yeah.
actually reasonably flat. The other one has way too much slope.
Okay.
But they need a place to put the water. And that's
A
it, that's all they
retention
have
pond
left.
of something sort?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
76, or rather 74, is where they're gonna look to reroute some of this water. So the one property that's okay, is gonna have some type of easement on it. I don't think it will, cause a problem with some type of build. But I don't think you're getting a unit in there unless it's a duplex or something like that, getting your money for it. The other one is on the other side of the streets,
Yeah, 74 and 48
Yeah,
are the
so-
ones that are going to the trust.
if you look at High Point Drive on this little map here, if she blows it up a little bit, it's
48
that.
is right here.
So it looks like a valuable lot, but if you go out there and look at it from the street, you basically get 5 feet from the street and then it just drops off. Unfortunately, you need a septic system here. So there's public water, but there's no public sewer. I didn't, anything's possible nowadays. But if you look at some of the Cortland properties and what those numbers came in at, you're looking at, 250 to 300 in site work to get it to work.
Can't backfill. It's
Just
gonna
not
cost a lot of money
Yeah,
for some
you're not
dirt.
That's why 74 actually has some value, but you're in a neighborhood that, it's all 750 plus. It's not, the affordability component of it is not gonna be there. And if you deviate from the zoning that's there, which is R40, you're just gonna end up with the ZBA asking them to put something in.
I mean, could we do some sort of, I don't know how many of these been done, but for ownership, affordable housing piece?
Yeah, you could, but we'd have to dump a bunch of money into it.
Yeah. That's
And
what
then
you're
just
talking about,
to get
300
one,
grand
yeah.
for one unit.
Yeah.
I know, there's not a lot of those.
So I actually, in this long, kind of drawn-out process, which they didn't want to include us in, which is fine, it's their permit, I reached out to an organization called CLI, which I actually got from the Beacon people.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been very cooperative as far as, an idea. And they actually have some units in Grafton. So they basically, they are the middle person, they're a nonprofit, between organizations that need to find housing for groups of people and the actual development side of it. So they would come in, purchase the property, build it out, they, do like a ranch there with like 5 units in there. So what they currently do in Grafton, as an example, is basically a ranch. And it's leased out to Massachusetts Association for the Blind. And so they have 5 units inside. It looks just like a regular house, blends in with the neighborhood, but it has staff quarters and things like that.
That's cool.
Something similar down on
Yeah, because if you're
Institute
saying these
Road.
people who own the houses around are 750, that's gonna be a huge fight to put some affordable housing over there.
Well, the perfect part about that is it's you typically covered under the Dover Amendment, so.
Well, we've done in some other towns, we've done group homes.
Yep.
Which are Dover Amendment,
So we should be able to fit it in there just fine.
Okay. Yeah.
It's an alternative to do something on this property once we get our heads wrapped around the GSX and the 25 Worcester Street. But it has some value for us. So they kind of wanted us to figure out what was going on with it before they committed any real time and resources to it. But I sent them all the information that I could find in order for them to at least say, yeah, we can shop it around. So they'll basically go out to people in the area that have a need, like the Association for the Blind. If they have a demographic that needs support, then it will go back through the channel, and almost everything is financed, from DHCD directly, HUD, et cetera, et cetera. And they're kind of like a middle person. So it could be something that we could do there. We could put a little 5-unit, all those units count against SHI too. So if we put a ranch there or something very similar to
Yeah.
the neighborhood, we could have 5 units in
That's a
there.
lot of government funding they would get for that.
Oh, it's almost all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
from,
there's gotta be developers that focus just on that kind of
well,
stuff.
COI does actual building itself.
Okay.
So they'll go and they'll basically partner with somebody, they'll lease it to that organization. They do the build, it stays in their portfolio.
Okay.
So it is a general mix of private money and, but it's almost all backed by a government component. I guess they asked me to do is bring it to the trust and see if the trust was okay with it. I basically said, I don't see why they wouldn't be, if 100K is coming over to the trusts, which, by the way, is where it's supposed to go anyways. But Kathleen kind of has an update on the deeds.
Well, so anyway, what happens, so there's settlement is being worked out, and the attorney for the town or the ZBA, Dan
The
Hills?
ZBA, Dan Hill.
Dan Hill sent me a message to say, oh, Kathleen, I understand you're representing the trust, and here are these 2 deeds done by the developer, and would you take a look at them? And I said, well, actually, there are 3, and one of them, they're all wrong, because we're not getting one of those lots, it's going to the town, not to the trust, and the 2 that are going to the trust. And then I took a look at the title, and there are 2 mortgages on the property. And so I said, that's great, but I want discharges for those 2 mortgages. In addition, it's a limited liability company, as everybody does. They set up an LLC for a specific parcel and a specific project. And so it's a corporation. It owes corporate excise taxes. And so I said, I want a corporate excise tax lien waiver. And what this attorney had done was just put in this statement that says, this is not all or substantially all of the assets of this LLC. I'm like, what else do they own? Having run into this situation before, where somebody said to me, oh, no, it's not all the assets, because as soon as I sell this house, I'll have money in the bank. I said, that's not how that works. So I haven't heard anything since. I sent off to the attorney, I sent him the recording information for the 2 mortgages and said, that's, we want those. We're not taking property subject to 2 mortgages. And I haven't heard anything else about the corporate excise tax lien waiver. So that's where we are. You would be signing, there would be a deed, and you folks would be signing an acceptance of that deed that gets recorded. Because you want to have something on record that shows it's just somebody just didn't randomly walk down to the registry of deeds and pop some deed to some smoking, hazardous waste site, and you didn't know you own it. So there'll be a form that I'd be sending to you folks to have signed and have that go with the deed.
Is it worth taking on the headache for $100,000? Probably. I mean, these can sit there forever, honestly.
I mean, let them answer her questions, see
Yeah.
where it goes.
What do you mean the headache, though? What's the headache? We don't accept them if they don't fix that stuff.
Right.
There's a third party that's been
That's their
involved
headache.
in this.
Oh.
This is not part of this agreement, the third party left this agreement. So as far as I could tell, there was some mediation. So this is just the developer in the town trying to deal with the situation, not the third party. So the third party actually lives at 76.
Is that an investor?
No, nope, it is a homeowner. So whatever we do there, could involve us to some degree in whatever their arguments are.
Well, no, then. Why would we
What are
do
the
that?
arguments?
It wouldn't. I don't think the town would make this agreement if we didn't have some indemnification to the issues that are happening with the private homeowner. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
It just feels like we're taking somebody's garbage to get $100,000.
that's right.
Well, how about just the
We
$100,000 and the town can figure out the rest?
What is
That
there,
is
like
correct.
water leak?
I don't want
or-
I don't want a
I didn't know
poison
the
pill.
issues. We don't know the
2
issues.
poison pills on the deal.
Or we do.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where,
Is there like
how do I
water
put
draining
this
onto
off?
there?
Yes, there's a drainage issue for, that's where, who are the people that live there?
I'll look it up. I can find out.
Yeah, you just look it up and just say it.
What's the address?
It's, Amber, is it on there?
70 something.
I believe it's Nancy Bocconi and
Yeah.
somebody else.
So we accept the properties and there's been litigation. Are we putting the trust at risk for being sued
I don't know.
by somebody who seems to be lawsuit
Here's the thing.
non-averse?
There's no drainage easement that's ready to be recorded. So we can't take this until we know what they're gonna do with the drainage, because they need this property to put the drainage on, that 74.
Well, I think that goes to your point about why don't we just take the 100,000 for them not providing the affordable units they're required to provide under the permit? and let the town take all the land.
I mean, I hear no compelling case that there will ever be any affordable units built on those. And it's only gonna be a problem, so why don't we just take the 100 grand?
So would we be able to sell the good lot to a developer?
Doesn't sound like it's very.
After everything is
If-
done and nobody wants to sue anybody and the drainage
Right.
issue has been remediated,
So that's the headache.
still have a parcel. It's not a very good parcel, but yeah, you could probably sell it for, you know, whatever market rate is, discounted on the fact that it's got some, town easements on it.
I don't support this.
Well, what do you want me to go back with them? Just give us.
I just want the
100K?
money.
Yeah,
I
all
just
right.
want the money.
I'm
Is
about
it just
there
one
myself.
parcel they have a problem with, or is it all three?
Well, one of them's not developable without an
But the
extensive
third,
amount of
the
money.
third party person,
They're taking the other, oh, I have no idea, that's the problem. I
which
don't
parcel do they have a problem with?
I think they have a problem with the drainage issue in its entirety. So I think
The issue only affects that one private homeowner at the bottom.
That-
So it's all coming down.
That-
They're at the bottom. It's
Oh.
sort of, so
Bad
it's,
landscape architect.
Well, I think it's also worth noting that home was there.
Bailing on this too.
That home was there before the development happened. So like, they built all those homes around them and then caused them this drainage problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the developer got to the end of
Right.
his permit and said, I'm done, I've already,
Gotcha.
yeah, I've already done all the cream here, can I get my street accepted? And everybody said no, and now we're at the point where we're capturing the bond, essentially.
Do you have a stormwater drain system? Like there's,
Yeah.
it's just overflowing with that one
It's
spot and then
inefficient
just.
for the contour, the whole thing is one big ledge. So, you know, there was never real a true accommodation to how water's gonna naturally
That's how I get a
flow.
bad rap.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you want me to go back
they
to?
they do have a design for the 300K spend though.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna
That's a
fix the
legitimate
drainage.
design that the town's approved, looked at, is comfortable with, that will address that private homeowner's issue. It's just the private homeowner isn't signing off on this yet. They're essentially saying, we're not convinced. And
We
and
gotta
we're
sign
not
off on
gonna,
it to make sure
we're
it
not gonna
works.
release, our claim against the issues that we've had. So, that,
So here's a
that
plausible scenario
persists.
for 74, if we get our hopes set on trying to do something there. Whatever drainage that they put in and record and ease and stuff like that will then come over to us, we own it. It's in our portfolio. If they were to come back and have to do something on top of that to appease homeowners, or what they're proposing doesn't actually work and they need to do something together, then they have to come to us and get the land back from us, or ask for another easement. I don't, that's, I'm sure we would work with people, but, it seems like a big mess and a little bit of a headache.
And you think 74 is the only one that has any value?
Yeah, it's the only one with any value. 52 has plenty of value, but that's what they're using for drainage. That's the one they're not gonna give us.
Right. Well, I think the idea to just say that you're entitled to the 100,000 because they're not providing the affordable units,
I think so, yeah.
and just
Measly
leave it at that.
100,000.
I think we're entitled to the whole 400K, but that's just me talking.
Yeah.
Well, I would assume that they're using that 400 to do the, rest of it to do the road.
300, it's the bond. That's not where this
Yeah,
money should have
right.
come from. We should be suing the developer and
Yeah,
saying,
exactly.
Right.
you
They're
made a
they're
lot of
settling.
money off this, and
is a
now you're
settlement.
getting out of your permit.
I would like to express an opinion to the ZBA that we think that they're not doing enough for this. That they accepted too little for this. Like, it's,
I think we can hindsight it, yeah. By all means, draft something. I've already had my, exercised my displeasure with the ZBA, and I've had to kind of dial that back a little bit, because we do want to work with them.
I mean, it doesn't seem like they want to work with us. Like, if this is
Well, it's their,
how little they value affordable housing, you
Well,
know?
I mean, they did reach out, and we weren't part of the process, but, if they give us that 100K, they can keep the property as far as I'm concerned.
I just feel like 100K is so little.
It is.
well, you don't know any of the context on the
Yeah.
negotiations, so I wouldn't go and say that right off, but I hear what you're saying.
I think the properties, if they were developed and the developer had to spend the money to do it like he said he was going to, and the permit was gonna cost him more than $100K. And that commitment that he made to make all his money off of that comprehensive permit was only granted because he was gonna build the affordability component of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
And
what are
so
you
they're
gonna do?
making they made tons of money, and they're not giving us the affordability, and then they're also screwing these people.
But now to get that.
Well, they gave
is
us
a
most of the
long-
affordability, so it's 2 units, so it's light, but there's also, this is something that's been going on for years and years and years, and has had several councils involved. It's effectively a 3 or 4 party, depending on who you include, discussion that we need to try to make everybody as right as possible.
Yeah.
And yeah, the developers, they've already made their money, so
And so-
there isn't much leverage we have. And I don't know if that's an option, to go spend a bunch of money to sue the developer, hoping that it's gonna work out for the town. I just don't know.
Meanwhile, you get a whole bunch of people living there, all residents of our community, and we're taking care of property that should be part of the public way. So, you know, the town should be providing all the services, and they're probably providing the services anyways, but it should be incorporated like any other neighborhood. It's not the neighborhood's fault, the people who bought these homes.
Right.
That this has been going on. And we'd have to go to hack, and we'd have to chase a couple $100,000, of which we're getting $100,000 up front, and that legal work's not gonna be free.
Well, the
And-
other thing, it's a single entity. It's it's an LLC.
Yeah, he's just
You
gonna.
only have this asset.
yeah,
You can't reach anything else he owns.
My whole 4 years on the planning board was basically capturing bonds from planning board permits that went through that boom, that went belly up. And Cortland's a great example of it. There was no top coat on it. And he basically developed all the cream of it and then just bankrupted the LLC and moved off. And then he did 2 other developments in town, under different
Yeah,
LLCs.
This is, the town's gotta do the best that it can.
See that, and then they go ahead and let him do more stuff in town. Like,
Well, you have to. You can't say no to something that's.
somebody
you
who's
know,
cheated
you
us
have-
already. Like, you can't say you cheated us. We're not going to let you cheat us again.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I mean, I get it if that you're saying that's what the law says, but like,
That's just
That's
that's
ridiculous.
the angle
The
of.
game.
Yeah, that's the game. Especially in a boom period,
Yeah.
like this particular one. I mean, the average sale home,
Karma. It'll.
you would hope. Eric's ready to move on.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so I'm gonna send
Just ask for
something
the
back
100 grand.
to the ZBA and ask for the $100,000. They can keep the lots and do what they want with them. Is everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Do I need a vote for that? Why don't I draft something, we can vote on the draft? Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Kathleen.
Just one last thing is that I did send some language on the trust for some additional provisions that you might think about adding to your declaration of trust.
Oh, for
think
the
that's in
bylaw review?
package, The bylaw review.
Did you, huh?
Not very many. But I did suggest 4 clauses. You don't have something in the agreement that says that you're a governmental body. I mean, it's some language like it, but not good enough, I think, and I think this chapter 8, governmental body, is better language. You don't have any language in your trust about how to amend it, which seemed to be something that you should add, to have a right to do an amendment. The duration of the trust, you don't have any language on that, so that can be a problem. So we put in language to say that it's an indefinite duration, but it could be terminated at any time by 2/3 vote at town meeting. You don't like to have trusts that don't say anything about termination dates duration, because then they just assume it's, 21 years and a life and being or whatever, and then you're toast. So you do want to have some language in your trust that says that it's that. And the last one is the authority provision, which allows a party relying on a deed or something signed by you folks, that if we recorded a certificate that said these are the trustees, that they could rely on that and take that as evidence. You have a requirement currently that everybody has to sign an acceptance and a resignation and all that sort of stuff, and that never gets done. Sometimes it does, but not by everybody, and it's always kind of a mess. So you would like to have an ability for a third party to say, okay, fine, I got something signed by the trust, there's a certificate that says these are the trustees, and I'm entitled to rely on that. I don't have to go back and search for 40 years and make sure everybody accepted and resigned and recorded everything at the registry.
Makes sense.
So it's really just some 4 simple cleanup things that I would have suggested to add to your declaration of trust.
Perfect. If I can just get a quick motion to, we can officially send this over to the bylaw review committee.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we accept the suggested amendments and pass that feedback along to the bylaw review committee.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Amber, would you mind doing that for us? Send this over to him.
Thanks.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that's it.
The Bruins are probably still on, so you
I don't think they're playing tonight, are they?
they are?
Oh, they're playing the Kraken, right? Is that something like
Yeah,
that?
the crack.
Oh my gosh.
That's right. They're good.
Forgot about
Kraken's legit.
Is it?
They're no joke.
I just love the
They've
name.
got a
The
silly-
name is terrific.
The name is silly.
Golden
but,
Nuggets.
Seattle?
yeah,
Are they in
Portland.
Seattle?
Yeah,
it's Portland, right?
they beat the Sabres on Tuesday.
They needed a team.
They're legit. I got the impression that maybe the land clause might be a non-starter for the developer.
We'll see.
Okay. That's, at the least, it's very unusual.
Oh, there's no question
I
that it's
think is
unusual.
what I heard, because this is not a typical scenario, right?
No,
The land cost for what?
that you would get the land
GSX
back
thing?
Yeah.
Going back to that.
on the GSX.
You were participating in the purchase of the land, so we should have a hold of it. This is always something.
I've just
that
sent the
they-
message to their counsel saying that that's the case and see what she says.
If we took another scenario, though, which is we had a private owner that had a piece of land and a developer, we decided to partner with the developer, we're gonna grant a certain amount of money for a certain amount of units, we wouldn't have an expectation, I think is what I heard you say, necessarily, that the trust would get that land in the case where we issued a grant and that development didn't go forward.
As I said, most of the times, like 99 out of 100, I have a mortgage.
Right.
And this I don't. The example that I gave you earlier of that project in another town, we had a mortgage. Now, like we were a third or whatever, but we had one. And so that meant that we have some kind of play in the game. In this case, we said, okay, fine, if a mortgage is gonna cause you trouble, and it would, if we had the mortgage now, and, because the money's going out now,
Yep.
and then they were trying to get financing, and we're sitting there, and that's a problem. I understand that.
Yep.
So, in that situation, they refused. And I said, well, we could have a mortgage now before you get your financing. And when you get your financing, we'll subordinate it. I've done that.
Yep.
You know, I'm number 1 now, and I'm gonna be number 37 by the time the project is done.
Sure.
But that's fine, and we've done that, but they would not, their counsel was like, no way, we're not doing that. So, I just go back to them to say, well, okay, fine, you weren't gonna give us the mortgage that we asked for, so if this goes south, that's what we want, is to have the property back.
Okay.
Which was always the anticipation.
Well, we'll see what we'll see what she says.
Is there maybe like an alternate path where we would like not be giving them money until a certain point, like financing or whatever, and then we pay them back in arrears for their soft expenses, like just something to get us to a point that the project is more certain to happen?
Well, I think we should, I don't think I've seen, but I look for it, I'll ask for it, is what the schedule is.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's other trusts that I represent where it's not surprising at all that we fund, because lots of times they're nonprofits, like they're a housing authority that we're providing money to. And so, yes, we'll send out the first, 300,000 or 400,000 for them to do the engineering and all that sort of stuff that they need for the permits. That happens constantly. But you're looking to see where we are in this process for how much they're drawing down. I mean, I know they want cash now.
Yeah, the agreement was they were paying 1-to-1 against us. So as the grant funds go out, they were putting their own money in, so we both had skin in the game.
Is that in here? I didn't see anything about that. in
Yeah.
here. Where is it?
You think they're trying to stall to get the other project done, and do they have the capacity to do this project
Well,
and
that's
that
the thing that
project?
I kept asking, but they're entirely different paths. So,
Different, like,
different funding mechanisms.
but same
different-
people working on the drawings and working on the,
Well, that is a shovel-ready project, so it's a little bit different than this one, but, yeah, but they're
it's a
also looking
big
for.
project though, it's
They're
a lot of
looking
things.
for 68 million as opposed to 24.
So Kathleen, would you recommend that we request the schedule?
Yeah.
Because I
I mean, I think we,
I think understanding the spend on this project, and the outlay of cash from the trust.
Yeah.
We have their
We're-
schedule. They sent
yeah,
me the
I
last-
just said, I think, I don't remember seeing it. I probably missed it somewhere along the line.
How long ago was that?
That was
But I think
December.
that's I think that we need to understand here
Yeah,
what the history, what's gonna be the history of the
Updated
draws.
then?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
They updated
Yeah.
for that meeting,
Okay.
because I wouldn't have the meeting unless they provided us that.
Okay. So, sorry to go back to that. I had some stuff
Yeah, no, I get
percolating.
it completely.
Yeah, and as I said, it should be, so in number 4 are the details of sort of, how they're drawing, how they're, putting in requests and project costs. And so they're gonna be listing all these things that they're spending as well as
Okay, there.
what,
It says 1/2 of the amount.
Okay.
So they are paying right alongside us the
Yeah.
whole time. It's not like we're just like, here you go.
Yep.
no.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a little bit better agreement, especially if you think that they need the cash and they want it right now, then that means we do have leverage.
Oh, they definitely want it,
They don't, they must, and they want to make this move too,
yeah.
because they only have 6 months left on it, and they have to have something before the select board, because they're gonna need that extension. The Pine Street project is, that stalled because they didn't get their second round of financing, so they committed a lot of cash up front for that. And now they're working with somebody else. So whatever financing they had before pulled out. So, because that was supposed to be done in November, at least last I was told.
Okay.
But that's something that I want to update a little bit on when we get to our 25 Worcester Street, because it will
We
impact
won't
our
be in Safe
strategy.
Harbor.
Yeah, exactly. Kathleen, thank you very much for coming out.
You're welcome. Nice to see you all in person.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was lovely to meet you in person, yeah. Okay, so we got 1, 2, and 5 done. Now we'll just quickly do the housing production plan. We just need a sign off on this and send something back to Karen to get her moving. So, do you have a copy of the bid there?
Of the bid?
Yeah, so Amber and William did the unsealing. So they only had one bid, and it met all the criteria of what we were asking for. So now we just need to accept the bid by a vote, and then I'll reach out to Karen, and I'll have her in at the next meeting. We'll start going over things.
Make a motion to accept the single bid
Second.
for the housing production plan.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. I'll reach out to her, Amber. Actually, you know what? Why don't we handle it through you, because there's gonna be some administrative stuff, and then I'll just get in your way. Just reach out to her and tell her the bid's been accepted, and then we want her to come out to our meeting and start the process.
Sure.
She did our last one, so this should be relatively smooth sailing. Okay, 25 Worcester Street. We got something back from Claire and Laura today, right?
Yes.
Which should be a complete proposal. So it has most of the attachments that we needed in it. The strategy here and the thought process from their side was, in January, the state and Fed releases a lot of its funding mechanisms. So HUD and DHCD, basically tell everybody what they're willing to give, what their terms are, stuff like that. And so really simplistic, but that happens this time of year. So they wanted us to hold off until we got to this point and then throw it out there, and I believe it's gonna go out for 6 weeks.
Yes.
That's fair.
And then that will make it to after all of these developers get a chance to look and see what financing is out there. They've got a Rolodex of people they're gonna send it directly to. We're gonna send it to Beacon, and one other company that Chris McGoldrick had reached out to back when he was still with us. So we'll send it directly to them and have them take a look. So it's pretty exciting. They seem to think that we should get some good feedback on this. Overall strategy for this is something that we're gonna have to discuss as we kind of walk through this process. So the town has according to DHCD by memo, official memo, mind you, is in safe harbor until March of 2024. So this project would be granted by waivers, 40B process, et cetera, similar to others on this pathway. If we get the RFP back in 6 weeks, we find a developer that we're willing to work with, figure it's gonna take at least 6 months to get a project together for submittal with the ZBA, would still leave about 6 months worth of safe harbor. The ZBA does not actually have to pick up anything, or they can set it in the process. If they deny it, you cannot bring it back before the ZBA for 2 years. Regardless of whether it's a variance or a waiver request, and that's my understanding of it. So if we were to look at this and the timeline of it, it might be unrealistic for us to partner with a developer and not wait till safe harbor. It has expired. Because there is no way that Pine Street will be developed and be under occupancy permit before we're out of safe harbor. There's just no way possible. So I need some feedback from you as we're getting these documents going back and forth, what we want to instruct MHP to do.
Is it your recommendation that we hit the pause button for 6 months?
Yes.
try
But
see
it's
what we've got
taken
out
us
here.
so long to get to this point that I think if we fashion the RFP the way it is, I think naturally speaking, you're gonna be at least November before something's ready to be submitted. And I think we're gonna have to, whoever we award that bid to is gonna have to be equally cognizant of it. And I'm just hesitant to do it now as opposed to getting into an agreement with a developer and having them just wanna, put it in there.
Sure.
I think it complicates things. I don't think we can truly say what will happen with the ZBA, proposing what we're proposing. So I know we kind of have a mandate from town meeting that says we can do this there, but we don't have any mandate beyond that that says, is 48 units too much? When it gets to the ZBA process, is it gonna be hacked up? I mean, we naturally have to deal with that anyways, even if we're out of safe harbor, but it does give us some recourse.
We have a broad stroke concept though, right?
Yeah.
I just wonder if we should go to ZBA and say, what do you think about this?
So I've made those kind of outreaches, and they're not willing to participate.
We can,
And their line of thinking is we don't have anything that's real or substantial,
Exactly.
so we're not gonna just
The ZBA is not going to straw poll for us.
look at it, yeah, okay,
Well,
fine.
they don't want to give away
I
their
get that.
hand,
Yeah.
they don't,
So,
Yeah.
I understand it's a little frustrating.
It's a
though.
tough position for them to be in, for us to go and say, this is
Yeah.
kind of what we're
Right,
proposing.
look at this
hey, you guys will
picture.
do
How's
48
that look?
units, right? And then
Yeah.
it handcuffs them.
And there's nothing to say that this won't be 2 years from now, and none of us are even on the trust, and the ZBA is completely turned over.
Sure.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's tough. These cycles seem to go. I think we stay on our course and let's see what type of feedback we get.
I mean, if we submit it and we don't like what we get, do we have to?
We do not.
Yeah, it says we can deny all the proposals.
It's really bad faith to deny it based on the fact
Yeah,
that.
because then people won't do it the second time.
Exactly. but it's a hard and fast rule on this, the 2-year turnaround. Now, if it's out and they don't grant the waiver, we have recourse, we can go to DHD, go to HAC, we got a whole bunch of things. But as far as what I could find, and there's not a lot of experts and there's not a lot of people giving straight advice on this type of stuff, that's the one thing I kinda went back to, is that, you know, you're kinda stuck. Safe harbor is safe harbor.
I might have another developer you can reach out to.
I'll send it right to Amber, and
Okay.
we'll send it over to Laura. So, I know it's taken us a long time to kind of rally to this point, and that's why I'd be hesitant to delay it any longer. But could make people a little bit uncomfortable. What say you, Dan?
I don't get good vibes from the CBA. So
When will we be going to them though? At what point? I mean, that would be far.
We won't be,
No,
the
November.
developer.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, partnering with the developer, but yeah, I mean, November, if everything went swimmingly and we accepted a bid in March, there's no way that they're gonna be to the point where they're ready for a submittal until November. I just don't see it, you know, look at all the other development,
Yeah, it takes a while.
yeah. Well, you know, I know,
I know.
I'm trying not to patronize you, I apologize.
No, these RFPs were my like demise when I first got out of school because you just like spend 80 hours a week just working on these.
Yeah. It's gonna be a long turnaround. And it's also gonna put it into a whole nother window. We have no idea what the interest rates are gonna be like. We have no idea what the 2024 round of financing is gonna be like for participation from the state. It goes back to what Eric said, you know, there's risk in this. You know, you can't, we're gonna have to partner with the
Senior
private
housing's
developer.
not gonna. I mean, if we stay with the senior housing, we need senior housing.
Well, yeah, and I think the ZBA will, I'm confident that we're gonna get good participation from them and good feedback. I just, you know, if I'm leveraging and hedging my bets, I just would rather have something, some recourse, because this is gonna be a lot of time and energy.
Have we reached out to anybody in Worcester? Because they're trying to expand their housing market within the surrounding areas. Because they're trying to bring in labs to there, so they don't have any housing to put people that would work there.
I'm assuming that MHP is gonna, I mean, that's
Okay.
kind of the reason why we went with them, is because they were
Yeah.
connected.
Okay.
Um,
There's a lot of talk about that.
They have inroads with CMRPC, and a couple of people that have looked at properties have also been showing interest, Beacon as well. But even if we get this, I just wanna make sure that, you know, while would be a good milestone for us, you're probably a year before we actually see the next step of this. So we can have a little bit of a celebration, you know, after we get some bids, and that would be nice. And then we're just gonna wait for another year. So. All right.
It doesn't say anything about the conveying of the deed and what will be involved there, correct? Okay. And I'm seeing that,
Well, no, wait, I think there's a quick section on it.
but it doesn't give any details.
We prevent it from being a ground lease, or it's gonna be a conveyance.
Okay. Because I did see ground lease template in the attachments, but, okay.
You were saying before, like, this would just be not just giving them the land, there might be some contribution of dollars to this.
It
that
also-
we could help with.
It doesn't say that we're gonna give them the land either,
It doesn't.
not for free.
They'd have to
It
buy
says
it.
that we will convey that.
More than $1?
This doesn't hamstring us into any monetary amount of money.
Okay.
Yeah.
They could,
That's the
in their
next step.
performer, they could
That would be the
assume.
PNS.
Yep.
Okay. We've left it open-ended on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be negotiated on the PNS.
It could very well be that they do want a ground lease, and that's how they wanna, from our perspective, I don't know if we wanna do that. We certainly don't want that to be when our first draft of the RFP, that's how we were gonna do it, we were gonna ground lease it. That needed to go away. We need to, you know, all sorts of flexibility here. Why do we have, annual town report on here?
So do we need to vote on this or no?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, are you ready to?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just,
I did keep William in the loop on this, and he said that I'll need to post it in the Grafton News for 2 weeks. So everybody's okay with paying, $40 to run that.
yeah, no, that's gonna be fine.
Okay.
Why did you say 2 weeks, though?
Um,
Because we're going for 6 weeks and, with MHP.
right. I guess the newspaper posting is only 2 weeks.
All right.
It could be longer because the period's longer. He was going off of a 1 month, not a 6 week.
Yeah, what we did
He
with
wasn't
the,
sure.
housing production plan was just 2 weeks. Okay, we can alter that if we need to extend it. MHC's gonna post it on the mass words anyway, so we'll be covered for that end of it. I entertain a motion to accept the, RFP as drafted.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I think we have a little bit of celebration. I mean, this is kind of a milestone for just this document. I mean, this took like a
Ed's not
solid
here.
year. So, why was it 2022 annual town report in here?
So this is due January 31st. It's not something that I was looking for everyone to work on. I just wanted to see if there was anything that I didn't have that you thought should be in there. This is just a first draft. But is there anything?
Can you put something in there about the housing production plan? You did, down at the bottom. I apologize, I didn't even look at this, Amber.
Oh, no, that's okay.
You trying to request proposal,
Just had this open.
Does this get like read somewhere or like what?
it's in the town report that goes in the Springtown meeting.
Oh, okay.
That you can,
Like
everybody can
the-
get, yeah.
That we've won awards on?
Yeah, it's an awesome document, yeah. Honestly, I don't.
Yeah, if you don't have any feedback, that's perfectly fine. I just wanted to.
Is
Well, it's got
Dan,
like the
Yeah.
MBTA thing in it.
Dan, you
and
wanna put
everything.
in a slide against the ZBA on this one, really set up the tone?
I'll let
The
this one
perfect
pass.
spot to do it. All right, good, I appreciate
The
it.
trust has conducted all of its work without any support from the ZBA. Per Dan Kusher.
Okay.
Print my signature in there too.
Exactly. Amber, thank you for handling this.
Thanks for
Yeah,
doing
sure.
that.
Thank you.
I do plan on writing a little bit about each of in this section. This was just, the properties that you seem to talk about this year.
When is this due?
31st.
31st.
Of this month?
Mhm.
Cause we're gonna have to vote on this then. I don't think we're allowed to give our
It's not, I don't think it's something that you guys have always voted on.
I don't even remember doing this
Yeah,
last
town
year.
I think last year,
Yeah.
you just had me update the previous year and submit it.
And just change the
I'll
date.
make a motion that we can authorize Amber to draft and amend it as she sees fit on our behalf.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just as long as can you amend that motion?
No,
just to
no
bring
swear
in Dan,
words.
And to bring in Dan,
The clerk.
because he's the clerk, and he's awesome.
Do I hear a
Second.
Any discussion? Any comments on Amber's artistic license that we just granted?
That's great, this is
Full
good. I mean,
license.
it's straightforward.
I'd like it written in a Boston accent. The AH at the end of the words of an R.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none. Again, thank you very much, Amber.
Thanks, Amber.
Yeah, everybody had a chance to go through these meeting minutes? I'll entertain a
Read every
motion
single-
to accept the May 26, 2022, August 16, 2022, October 13th, 2022, and November 10th, 2022 as drafted.
So moved.
So,
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you again, Amber, and I think I'm all talked
Motion
out.
to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.